Good evening. I believe we are live. I do think I have a pulse. So, yep, we're in there. We're live. Hope everybody is doing well tonight. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Watchman News, where the headlines are hot, the commentary is spicier, and, well, sometimes the jokes are a little undercooked. Tonight, we're diving into a story that's got more twists and turns than a soap opera written by Kafka. Bashar Assad, the eye doctor turned dictator, has officially fled Syria. Yep, the man who once diagnosed anti-stigmatisms is now on the run, possibly squinting at a world map trying to figure out where to go. Bashar, may I suggest Monaco? I hear they have excellent Wi-Fi for all that online chess you're probably playing. Let's rewind. This guy wasn't born into villainy, he was drafted. Picture it, London, 1994. Bashar Assad is peacefully prescribing glasses, maybe even sneaking a few extra contact lens samples for his mates. Then bam! Big Brother Basile bites it in a car crash. And suddenly, Bashar's like, wait, me? Run? Syria? But I just installed Windows 95. Before he knows it, he's back in Damascus in a military uniform that probably itches like crazy, looking like a cross between Clark Kent and a substitute teacher. Bashar wasn't ready, and boy, neither were we. Fast forward to 2000, Syria's parliament, a beacon of fairness, lowers the presidential age requirement from 40 to 34. It's like lowering the minimum age for pilots because your nephew wants to try flying. Bashar gets a 99.8 approval vote. 99.8! Even your grandma's cheesecake recipe doesn't get ratings like that. Bashar is in, and for a moment, people are hopeful. He's tall, geeky, has a pretty wife, basically the Middle East answer to Steve Jobs. But within a year, Damascus Spring becomes the Damascus Spring Cleaning. Bashar says, you want democracy? How about a nice detention center instead? The salons close, activists vanish, and Bashar settles into his dad's old chair, only slightly too big for him. Then came 2011. Protests erupt, and Bashar, who apparently skipped a chapter in Dictatorship for Dummies, unsteadily responds with tanks, airstrikes, and the kind of brutality that makes you miss the days of strongly worded letters. At the same time, he insists there's no uprising, just foreign-backed terrorists. It's like a kid blaming their messy room on imaginary friends. But hey, he's not totally heartless. In between ordering crackdowns, the guy's emailing jokes. Jokes! Imagine getting a meme from Bashar Assad, probably something like, why don't dictators play hide and seek? Because good luck hiding with all those statues of yourself. Soon, Syria becomes the world's worst party. Russia's bringing tanks, Iran's got drones, and Turkey's just there for the baklava. It's less a Game of Thrones and more a game of who can make this worse. Meanwhile, Bashar's over in Damascus with his cousin Rami Makhlouf, who's busy building an empire of corruption so big it makes Wall Street look like a lemonade stand. Bashar's also got family drama in his life, in his wife Asma, who went from Vogue cover star to let's maybe not talk about her outfits anymore. And now, after 14 years of trying to hold on to power like a cat with a ball of yarn, Assad has fled. His government crumbled in the face of an opposition offensive. And guess what? His BFFs, Russia and Iran, were too busy elsewhere to help. Russia's tied up in Ukraine, and Iran, well, they've got their hands full. Assad's like the guy at the potluck who brings a bag of chips and expects everyone to save a seat when he leaves for an hour. Sorry, Bashar, no seat for you. Now he's gone, leaving behind a country that's seen more destruction than a piñata at a kid's party. So, what's the lesson here? Maybe it's this. If you're a former eye doctor thrust into dictatorship, don't try to see things only your way. And if you're going to flee after 14 years, at least take your statues with you. Those things are heavy, and Syria's got enough rubble already. Up next, we'll talk about Elon Musk's new plan to colonize Mars using cardboard and optimism. Stay with us. Hope everyone's doing well. ChatGPT does it again. I can't believe that it's kicking out these monologues, but I think I figured it out this morning when I was doing this one. I think what it is ChatGPT doesn't, at least the freebie, my version, right? It doesn't have access to like the latest information, okay? So it can't like pull out today's news. And so I think that is kind of what is a hiccup in the system, is because it's not really, in my opinion, it's not associating it with real news because it doesn't have the real news in its, the latest news in its system. So it thinks when I'm giving it, because all I'm doing, I have no problem sharing this, literally all I'm doing is taking an article, right? And I am asking ChatGPT to give me a 15-minute funny monologue, and I always read it faster than 15 minutes, but to give me a 15-minute funny monologue to do with this story. And then I put quotations, and I just paste the news article in there, and it does it. So I think when I do that, it thinks that what I am posting is a hypothetical situation and not what's really going on at the time. So that's just my suspicion, because when I go and I ask it to give me an image to go along with the story, I've got to play games with it to get it to give me the image, because I can't do that, and I can't do that. And I'm like, well, then give me what you can within your guidelines. And then it spits it out. And I was actually shocked at how close it was to Assad as far as the cartoon image of him. So I'm surprised that it got that close for me. So before we get started, I have plenty of articles up to discuss with you. Obviously, there's a lot going on. And before I get started, first off, I want to put a call out again for prayer. So if you are so inclined, and if you'll take a moment, please say a prayer for Charlie. And I'm talking about the widow of BC Blades. She's having a rough go of it. Which is obviously to be expected. And I'm telling you, it still hits me every morning, because without fail, there was only one YouTube channel that I watched every single morning without fail. One YouTube channel. That was BC Blades. It was like a morning thing for me, and I wouldn't even just kick it on and go about my thing. I would kick on just some video or whatever while I'm in there starting coffee or whatever, and I would wait until I got set down with my coffee in my BC truck mug, and I would sit down and I would watch his video. And so if you would, please say a word or two to the Father for her. If you're not so inclined to say a word to the Father, then just please, pleasant thoughts would be nice. She's an incredible lady. He was an incredible man. And the world lost a very good man. And today she had posted a video because, she's been getting rid of a lot of stuff. And the motorcycles were something that she had decided to let go of. And so I kind of told her a little secret today on that video. I'm not, and it is, if you've known me very long, you know this, I'm not a Harley fan. Never have been. I just, but I try to be respectful to those who are Harley fans up until they try to BS me that they're the best bike ever made, because that's a bunch of bull. But they're awesome looking and awesome sounding bikes, and I can't dispute that. I understand the love for them. I fully understand the love for them. It's not about it being the best built bike on the road. It's about the heritage. It's about the legacy. It's about everything that is Harley Davidson, and I get that. But the big secret is, and this is a fact, I wasn't just blowing smoke. My favorite Harley of all time is Charlie's. And I can't tell you hardtail from softtail to whatever. I have no idea what's what. But hers was the most gorgeous, beautiful teal green. And she had a bunch of accessories not only on the bike but also on her person that matched the bike. And it looked so awesome to see her on that bike. It was perfect. And so that even bothers me. Because I know that she loved doing that, and I also understand that it's important for her to kind of try to remove things from her life that's a constant reminder. And so, if you will, just say some words for her. I certainly would appreciate it. I'm sure she would, and I'm absolutely positive that Brad would. So, anyway. Moving on from that, kind of a bipolar moment because we're going to have a total change of attitude here. I just kind of wanted to give a bit of a heads up. There's a lot of nonsense, and I've talked about it quite a bit here, and I'm not going to stop. There's a lot of nonsense out there. And I just want to warn folks to be wary of it. Because let me give you, with what we do here, we also are very closely associated with prepping. And this is important, folks. Be very mindful of where you get your information. Because you've got half the channels out there right now telling you that this is the end times, and it's like a certainty. They're literally prophesying. Be careful of that. You've also got people that, based upon their own prejudices, are putting out misinformation and lies, things that have been long debunked. Pinball Preparedness this morning talked about how Assad chemically attacked his own citizens. And that is not the truth. That is not the truth. That was propaganda. When we were doing our show before, and I did the intro every night, I had the intro song every night, there was video clips showing young children being treated after a chemical attack. Those video clips are actually from one of those attacks in Syria. And the OPCW, and I know there's going to be varying opinions about them, it is what it is. The OPCW had proven that those chemical weapons used in that attack were actually U.S.-made chemical weapons. That's a fact. Just like there were no weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East, you know what there was, right? There was bunkers filled with bars of gold. And you can find that information today. You can find it out there plenty. There were bunkers of gold in Afghanistan, and the U.S. went in and confiscated all that gold. They weren't after weapons of mass destruction. They knew there was no weapons of mass destruction. They also knew that there were bars of gold in their bunkers. And that's what they did. They robbed the gold from the country. It's insane. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So be careful of that. And the reason I say that is if you are in an SHTF situation, you need somebody that's bringing you solid information, somebody that's bringing you facts, not something based on somebody's prejudices. That will do nothing but cause you problems and lead you to failure. I speak out about these channels all the time. In fact, Prepper Now did one earlier. He did a live stream. It was like the 5 wise men of prepping. Are you frickin' kidding me? Now, I'm not familiar with like 3 of the channels that he had posted. I heard of 1 out of the 3 I'm not familiar with, but that's as far as it's gotten. But his channel, Prepper Dog, was on there. When's the last time either of them have even talked about actual prepping? Anything that really directly related to prepping? They don't. They do news. That's it. They do news, and it's skewed news at that. Be mindful of that stuff. I really do hope, and it is my hope, that the prepping channels get back to prepping and leave the news alone. Because not only are they encroaching on a turf that they have no idea what they're doing, but the biggest issue of it is they're not even doing it because their heart's in it. They're doing it for the money. They are putting out content each and every day so that they can build that money. And hey, I'm not against somebody having a business. Doesn't bother me in the least. I want to make that clear. But there's a difference in being involved in the business that represents the sign you have on the door, and having a sign on the door just to attract people and then just doing whatever you can do to be able to pump out content every day. And during COVID, they found out that, news is great because there's stuff happening every single day. So we can just go every single day with this content. A lot of these channels didn't used to put out content every day. It was like a video a week, maybe 2 videos a week. And they were related to prepping. But when COVID came around, all that went away. And now they became these pseudo news channels, and man, it's insane. It really, truly is, because not only are many of them putting out misinformation because they were using bad sources, but also because their heart's not in the right place. They're there to gain viewers and to make money. The actual helping people is way down on the list. Because one thing that you learn after you've lived enough life is the best way you can help people is through education. It's the absolute best way you can help people. And Bull Hansen made a video yesterday, I believe it was. And I actually, hang on, let me get my tablet back up and my controller back open. I guess the screen went off. 1 second. Bull Hansen put out a video yesterday. He's one of them that I really like watching. Why? Because he's there doing it because of the heart. It's not even remotely about money to him. Funny how that works. Exactly, Kevin. Wisdom is knowledge. I posted, I shared Bull Hansen's video in the little community comment section thingy. I never see those things myself, so I understand a lot of people don't see it. I don't either, because I'm on a computer and they don't show up like in, I'm going to call it the news feed or whatever. They don't show up in that feed on a computer. They do on a phone, but not on a computer. So I never see when other people post that stuff. I never see it. But I called them out once again. I've got no shame in doing it. You know, the Father said to stand firm. And I am not going to refuse to listen to him. Just so I don't hurt feelings, or just because, oh, well, that's just YouTube unacceptable. I don't give a damn. So anyway, I called out Angry Prepper and Pinball Preparedness and Bear Independent and Prepper Now. I said, and the countless others take note. I said, Bull Hansen hit the nail on the head. Why do I have contempt for you all? Because you have contempt for the knowledgeable. If you don't know it, then it's automatically stupid, as well as the people who have the knowledge in your eyes. Make your money. I'm trying to make actual survivors. And I put hashtag wood gasification because that's one of the very things the Father sent me here. And I'm going to keep banging that drum because He told me to. I don't know, folks. Just when you pick people to follow, be careful. Be careful. Really look deep for the motive. Really look deep for the motive. If it isn't clear by now that I'm not here for money, I'm not here for subscribers, I don't know if it'll ever be clear. Because I actually do a lot of things that go against those very ideals, right? Everything I do pretty much goes against what it would take to actually build subscribers, and if I were a monetized channel, actually make money. I'm not here for that. And I am not going to risk my relationship with the Father because of money or because my desire to get attention. It's not going to happen. Not now, not ever. So be careful of that. Especially as we walk into wherever the hell it is that we're going. Because I can't tell you, I'm not going to be a false prophet and sit here and tell you that, oh, these are the end times. These are absolutely the end time. At the same time, I will remind you that you are never supposed to close your eyes. You are supposed to be watchful all of the time. Because as you were told, He comes like a thief in the night. He was very clear about that. He was also very clear that no man knows. No man does. Things are certainly lining up, and I have said it many times, and I'll continue to say it, that my trigger, my thing that, everybody's got their little thing that they watch out for. Mine is Damascus. And I've said that a million times. Damascus. I'm watching for the fall of, the destruction, I should say, of Damascus. I'm not going to sit here and prophesy and say, it's here, it's going to happen. But I will tell you to keep an eye on it. Absolutely keep an eye on it. There are a lot of things going on. Some of it makes absolutely no sense at all. I mean, this Syria thing in some aspects has me baffled. Because the quote-unquote Syrian rebels, right, the HTS, whatever names you want to put on them, they aren't fans of Israel. But yet Netanyahu, and it's one of the articles I have, pretty much claimed responsibility for what's going on in Syria. So either they've been psyoped and tricked, meaning the Syrian rebels. I don't know. And then Russia backs away, right? Like, oh, do we know you? Really? Iran backs away, same way. Who were you again? Something is up with this, ladies and gentlemen. Something is very odd in this. And I have long said that I think that some of these countries that fall, that there was wheeling and dealing done in the background by the countries that at one time supported them. That there is wheeling and dealing that was done. And next thing you know, they fall. Yes, there are absolutely lots of Christians in that area. Absolutely. I don't know. I'm glad I'm not in that area. I have no idea what to expect in the coming days and weeks. Again, do I see that we're winding up to a destruction of Damascus, a biblical destruction of Damascus? I can't put my finger on that right this second, but I'm not gonna pull my finger back and put my hand in my pocket either. right now, I can't figure out an angle to where the total destruction of Damascus is wanted or needed by anybody. So, but keep your eye on it, because this is very odd. The way that this all went down, very, very odd. Some of it, I have no idea even what to think. Like the quickness in which that they were able to take over these areas. You know, did the Syrian army just give up their arms and walk away? Were some of the Syrian army in one way or another convinced to walk away, whether it was to some kind of personal benefit or some type of inside knowledge? I am all but certain the U.S. and other countries had given these quote-unquote rebels at the very minimum intel for them to be able to walk in and do what they did in the time frame that they did it. Now I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about Ukraine and Russia. And I'm thinking about the struggle that Ukraine has had going up against Russia and losing ground against Russia. Right? And I know there's a big difference between Russia and Syria. But it was almost like they had little to no resistance when it came to the rebels in Syria. So I don't know. I don't know if that's because they were somehow given some type of a benefit if they laid down their arms, you know, if they were told ahead of time and hey, you know, if you just lay down your arms, walk away, you know, maybe their life was their benefit. I don't know. I don't know, but I do find it very, very, very interesting. So like I said, I do have several articles up tonight. I normally try to keep it down a little bit, but yeah, it's a little hard to do with what's going on now. So looks like I've got about 6 articles. I'm not going to read the entire articles. I'm just going to kind of go through them as kind of like a timeline of what's going on. So go ahead and bring this up. We're going to start at, well, I can't say the beginning, but we'll say the beginning of the end for Assad. Oh yeah, crazy dung in South Korea. Absolutely, lot of nutsy stuff in there. What I don't have in the news tonight is the defense minister was arrested and charged with treason. Apparently, and this is the story that we're being told, that it was the defense minister's idea, this martial law thing. Apparently, he went to the president, advised the president to do it, and commanded the military to do it. So, at the very least, he's a scapegoat. But that's kind of where that's at currently. Of course, the martial law has been lifted. I don't know where else, you know, that's going to go from here. We're going to have to sit back and watch how that unfolds. But the defense minister has been arrested, charged with treason. There was a vote to impeach Kim Suk-yoon, I think is his name. I don't have it up here, so I'm going by memory. And so that there was a vote on impeachment, and that did not pass. So, at least on that particular vote, he has not been impeached. We'll see what the future holds. I'm not necessarily buying the story that this all falls on the defense minister's shoulders. I'm not buying that for a second. And aside from that, the captain's supposed to go down with the ship. So, regardless if it was bad advice or not, the president shouldn't have taken it. And since the president did, and the president made the order, it's just my opinion. I think the president should have to go too. But that's my opinion. We have a sip of coffee and we'll get into Syria here. Syrian army informs officers of regime change, says Reuters. Yeah, well, you screwed up other places, Reuters. We're going to get to that. The Syrian Army Command announced on Sunday that President Bashar Assad's 24-year rule has come to an end. An officer in the country's armed forces has told Reuters the announcement follows a rapid offensive by jihadist forces on the capital. And again, that was like lightning. That was insane how quickly they took over those areas. And then I never believed that they were just going to walk in and roll over Damascus like they did. But it was like they had no opposition. It's almost like they rolled out the red carpet for them. Moscow, and this is the next, they're not consecutive articles, but in this particular topic they are. Moscow confirms Assad has left Syria. The Russian Foreign Ministry has confirmed that Bashar Assad has stepped down as Syrian president and left the country following negotiations with armed opposition groups amid the fall of Damascus to Islamist forces. It's crazy. It says in a statement issued on Telegram on Sunday afternoon, officials clarified that Moscow was not involved in the talks but acknowledged Assad's decision to transfer power peacefully. As in his ass could leave in one piece fully. Yeah, that's exactly what that meant. So, he basically handed him the keys with a red carpet. It's pretty bizarre. I saw a video today where people are pulling down paintings of Assad and stepping on them. And, I even seen people carrying like a bunch of kitchenware out. It's like, gonna make for an interesting time. So keep an eye out on eBay, right, for some Syrian kitchenware and maybe furniture and other things. And well, if you can get yourself a good deal on something, have a little piece of Syria if you'd like. So that's that at this point as far as Assad. It's done. It's over. Now this is part of what I was talking about, what? Wait a minute here. So not only can Iran not really help, they're like, sorry, bro. We just, we're busy. We've got the dog to wash, and we got dishes tonight, and we got a soccer game coming up. I don't think we're going to be able to defend you. However, they do have time to sit down and have a conversation with the new leadership in Syria, and I find that very interesting. It says Iran's foreign ministry has stated that the future of Syria should be determined by its own people without foreign interference, and expressed hope that relations between the two countries would continue, according to a statement released on Sunday. On Sunday, jihadists took control of the Syrian capital of Damascus, ending the 24-year-long rule of President Bashar Assad. In its statement, Tehran reiterated its support for international efforts based on UN Resolution 2254 to advance the political process in Syria. Officials called for a quick end to the military conflict, terrorism to be prevented, and discussions to begin involving all parts of Syrian society in order to form a new government. The UN document calls for a peaceful resolution to the Syrian conflict through free elections and a new constitution. Here's a quote: "The Islamic Republic of Iran, emphasizing Syria's position as an important and influential country in the West Asian region, will spare no effort to help establish security and stability in Syria, and to this end, it will continue its consultations with all influential parties, especially in the region," the statement stressed, while also recalling Tehran's long history of support for Syria. So, my biggest thing is, maybe he's Russian, possibly, possibly. My biggest thing is, why did they turn on Assad? I'm sitting there and I'm looking at that situation, and I'm sure there's got to be something that's not, it's just not known information to the public. I think there's something that happened behind closed doors, so to speak, involving Assad, that somehow involved Iran and Russia to the point that they no longer support Assad. Not necessarily Syria, but Assad. That being said, let's not forget Mr. Tinfoil Hat Guy here. And I have long said that I would suspect that all of the nations, even the ones that we see fighting each other, and this is largely based on the Bible saying wars and rumors of wars, it kind of makes me wonder if much of what we see is a facade. And that there's a lot more working together than what we even realize. And working together towards this goal of the, I don't mean to sound cliche, but the New World Order. That is the only way that this really kind of fits in my mind. Because other than that, it's really hard to kind of make all these puzzle pieces fit. Very odd. What's going on is very odd in Syria. So, let me have a vape and a sip of coffee real quick. It's just not. It just doesn't seem authentic. It doesn't. I'm vaping on sherbet ice cream. Yum, yum, yum. Okay. I have always kept an eye on Turkey, Kevin. I have always kept an eye on Turkey, and the reason why is because they go back and forth so much. You know, one time they're trying to please the U.S. and NATO and trying to get F-35s and stuff, and the next moment they're trying to get S-500 systems from Russia. So you kind of never, I think they go along with whichever way the wind blows at the moment. I don't trust them, not for a second, because of that, largely because of that. Yeah, they are absolutely a part of NATO. I think they're probably the least trusted nation in NATO, though. And I know the U.S. certainly keeps a close eye on them. I think other members of NATO keeps a close eye on them. They're definitely not a favorite of NATO. Definitely not a favorite. But I also think that they get used as a... I think they get used. You know, the United States likes to make a lot of promises to nations that they don't intend to follow through on. And I don't think they ever intended to give Turkey F-35s. I think they use that as bait. I think they use that as bait to get Turkey to bend to their will. And I think Turkey does it. And then, then of course... then of course they're kissing up to Putin, trying to get defense systems and stuff like that. And then the U.S. is like, oh no, you're not getting the F-35s. And then it's just a back and forth. But Turkey is certainly one to keep an eye on. You are correct. And the reason why is because when, quote-unquote, things go down, they're going to be the ones to watch to see which way they go. And I don't think they're going to go on the NATO-U.S. side. I think they're going to go on the other side. Syria used as bait? Very possible. Very possible. I don't know all the mechanics of that, but very possible. Syria is in and Turkey as well, but Syria is in a very strategic location for all parties involved. All parties involved. Now, Dabu put out a video earlier talking about a pipeline. And he might have something with that. He might absolutely have something with that. Maybe this is about resources. Maybe this is about energy when it all comes down to it. I can't tell you either way. But that is certainly a plausible option. So, but, it's going to be important to watch how Syria goes because, or how Turkey goes, because now that Syria is basically under U.S. puppet control, at least at this point, Turkey's the one to keep an eye on. Because if I've got my geography right, if Israel / the United States got actual control over Turkey, because I don't think they have it now. If they got actual control over Turkey, then they would have that entire region, with the exception of like Iran, they would have that entire region like boxed in. So I kind of think that that's the goal here. And absolutely, Kevin, bring our troops home. 100%. Bring our troops home. I like what Trump had to say about Syria. That's not our problem. Let it play through. Let it happen. Except he did it without the whisper in the ear. But it wasn't like Joe Biden and his daughter in the shower. It was more like on Truth Social. He's more or less saying just let it play out. I think those were the words, let it play out. And I agree with him. Now, on that same token, I'm not a big fan of what he had to say. I've actually got it in the news here. I'll wait and I'll cover that. But as you see in front of you here, Netanyahu claims credit for overthrowing Assad. And says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has claimed that the fall of Bashar Assad's government in Syria is a direct result of Israel's military campaign against Hezbollah and Iran. Now, don't you find that interesting? I certainly find it interesting. Anti-government forces, including Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or Sham, HTS jihadists, and U.S. Armed Free Syrian Army militants stormed Damascus on Saturday as the Syrian army stood down and Assad, according to the Russian Foreign Ministry, left the country for an, quote-unquote, I'm saying quote-unquote, an unknown destination. We'll get to that. HTS leader Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, former al-Qaeda commander, proclaimed victory in a televised statement on Sunday, declaring that the future is ours. In a visit to the Israel-Syria border on Sunday, Netanyahu hailed the radical Islamist takeover of Syria. Now, let me repeat that. In a visit to the Israel-Syria border on Sunday, Netanyahu hailed the radical Islamist takeover of Syria. Wait a minute. Since when has Israel taken the position behind radical Islamists? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Little Sun Tzu there, Mr. Netanyahu. Goes on to say that this is a historic day in the history of the Middle East. He said in a video statement, the Assad regime is a central link in Iran's axis of evil. The regime has fallen. So not only now is it this central link in the axis of evil, but now it can belong to the central bank. Funny how that works. So funny how that works. So now we have one more nation, mark my words, that will be given over to the central banking system. Interesting how that works. It's almost as if, no, it couldn't be that the international banking system, they couldn't possibly be controlling all of this, could they? maybe the tinfoil hat's a little too tight. Or not. It's very interesting stuff to keep an eye on. However, Assad is now in Moscow. I assume safe and sound. We'll see if he gets hit by an ice cream truck or something. But it says former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has been granted asylum in Russia and has arrived in Moscow with his family, Russian news agencies RIA Novosti and TASS reported on Sunday, citing Kremlin sources. The development comes as Syrian militants seize control of Damascus, effectively ending Assad's 24-year blah, blah, blah. So it goes back into the stuff that you already know about. But this is an announcement from Moscow saying that he is here, he has been granted asylum, and that kind of goes into the face of earlier reports. Reuters decided to take it upon themselves to make the claim that he was in a plane crash. And I laughed because the story was the plane made a U-turn and then I think it said descended and disappeared off radar. So if I was trying to get away from a bunch of people trying to take me out, and I happened to have a plane to do so, yeah, I think I'm smart enough to head one direction, and then, I don't know, maybe descend and shut off my ADSB and ADS, all that, right? And then go a different direction. And that's exactly what he did. They did that as a fake. A cheap fake, whatever you want to call it. That's what they did. They made them think they were going one direction. Then they intended people to think that the plane went down. That's why they descended, cut off that radio equipment so that now the systems weren't picking them up anymore. Oops, they just disappeared. As he flew on into Moscow, safe and sound with his family. So that's what happened there. The article here says Reuters should retract fake Assad's plane crash story. Says Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova has suggested that Reuters should retract a story claiming that it was highly likely that Assad died in a plane crash while leaving Syria. Assad left Syria in the early hours of Sunday morning as HTS jihadists and U.S. Armed Free Syrian Army militants, U.S. Armed, stormed Damascus. Flight tracking website Flight Radar 24 showed a plane believing to be carrying Assad leaving the Syrian capital and heading in the direction of the Mediterranean Sea. One direction, right? Before making a U-turn and disappearing from the map. Well, I think they probably intended to disappear on the map first, but nonetheless, they succeeded anyway. It said making a U-turn, disappearing from the map. Shortly afterwards, Reuters reported that there was very high probability that Assad may have been killed in a plane crash, as it was a mystery why the plane took a surprise U-turn and disappeared, citing two anonymous Syrian sources. After Russia's TASS news agency confirmed that Assad had landed in Moscow and been granted asylum, Zakharova took to Telegram to bash Reuters for spreading fake news. She said, I wonder if Reuters, which reported on Assad's highly likely death, will refute itself, she asked, accusing the agency of spreading the sort of fakes that the West is so zealously fighting. So it gave them a moment to kind of stick it in our faces, and I say our faces, but it's mainstream media's faces, and, well, let's face it, they deserve it. I got no defense for them. So very interesting, right? Not only are mainstream media, mainstream news in the United States getting made fun of by all of the alternative media, but now even Russia's getting in on the game. I can't say that I'm bothered by it. They deserve every single bit of it. So that's my Syria stuff. And I do have I've got a few articles here involving Ukraine and Russia and Trump. Some interesting stuff with that as well. Very interesting stuff with that. You have some coffee, a couple of vapes, and we'll get into that. We'll unpeel that. One of them, the first one I've got here, I'm not liking it. It kind of reminds me of a first term. I'm not liking it. Man, this coffee's good. Had a pretty nice day here today, but I still wasn't convinced enough to go out there. I hate the cold, and I've been so sore. But it was a relatively nice day today. I think the only one on the forecast, we're going back to cold. I should say colder. It's not looking too horrible, but thank goodness, because I don't even want to see the power bill. We haven't had the money to get diesel fuel this year. And it's kind of a catch-22, right? Because I can heat the place cheaper with diesel fuel. But if you don't have the extra money to get the diesel fuel, you can't use it to heat the place. So, kind of a catch-22. But otherwise, I would absolutely be using that this year. Works fine. It's out there in the shed. But we're using the space heaters. We got 3 of the oil-filled space heaters. And I've got that thermostat that turns them on and off, all 3 of them. And so, not looking forward to the bill. Not as bad as the bill would be, though, if we used the regular HVAC in the place, that's for sure. That thing, you look at the thermostat funny and your bill goes up $300. For heating, for cooling, it's not that bad. This is a pretty hard place to heat, believe it or not, for such a small place. I assume that's because of the concrete slab floor and the concrete walls. So, I feel safe in the place. You know, it's plenty sturdy. But, kind of sucks in the winter. And I think, between myself and a good man here locally, I think I figured out why plants in my grow tent don't grow quite as good as what they did at the last place. I think we narrowed down what the problem is. So, the last place, wooden floors, carpet, had a basement, all that good stuff. Man, I could grow humdingers of plants in that tent. And here, and it's been every single grow I've done, they're just not, they're healthy, but they're not healthy, you know? And I think we narrowed it down. The floor, being concrete slab, even in the middle of summer, is a lot cooler. And I grow hydroponically. And so I do have a piece of the thick corrugated plastic, like you would use for, I don't know what you would use them for, but they're thick corrugated plastic you get in big 4x8 sheets, like heavy duty type of stuff. And I do have a hunk of that under each of the tubs that I use as reservoirs. However, I am certain that the temperature of the nutrient solution is much cooler here than what it was at the other place. And I think that's what the problem is. I think the temperature of my nutrient solution is just a little cool. And so while the plants survive, they can't necessarily thrive. So I'm going to double up, maybe even triple up on that material underneath of it. I'm going to try that, and if that's not enough to do it, I've already got one germination mat. I'll get a second germination mat, and I'll put those underneath the tub reservoirs. and that will definitely get the temperature up more towards like what it would have been at the last place. So hopefully that doesn't. I've got some really nice seeds to use. Again, thanks to the good local man here, and I can't wait. I just can't afford the fertilizer. That's the only reason I don't have a grow going, because I don't have the money for the fertilizer. That stuff's kind of expensive, especially now. I think it's like 50, 60 bucks to get the 3 different bottles. I was paying like 40, 35, 40. Anyway, wow, it's almost 9. Let's go ahead and get on to the Trump, Ukraine, Russia thing. Yeah, it is expensive. It blows my mind. I was using Fox Farm. I'm going to go back to Fox Farm. I was using Fox Farm nutrients, and they've got some great nutrients. Then I went to, I believe it's called Advanced Micronutrients is the name of it. And the reason why I went to Advanced Micronutrients is because it balances your pH level for you. And I thought, great, because I don't have to sit there and babysit it every single day and keep it all perfect and all that. And I don't think it's, it's not as good as what the Fox Farm is. There's no way it's as good as the Fox Farm. So I intend to go back to the Fox Farm, and I'll just battle the pH level. It's not that big of a deal, but one of these days when I win the lottery that I don't play, I will put an automated system in there, which those are really expensive. And those you hook up, there's like 2 pumps. Like for the pH level, there's like 2 pumps, and it constantly measures it. And when it gets out of range, it will automatically put in pH up or pH down depending on what it needs to get it in the range that you have it set at. So those are pretty cool systems. I'd love to get one, and well, maybe I'll consider the lottery. No, I won't play the lottery. Good book says we shouldn't gamble, and in my opinion, that's gambling. So that's why I don't play lottery. That's why not that I have money to invest or anything, but that's why I wouldn't do investments. That's why I wouldn't do Bitcoin or anything like that. It may not be, that may not be what the Father means about gambling, but I don't want to take the chance. I'm not willing to take the chance. Okay. I said a moment ago that I was a bit concerned, and I was being reminded a little bit of the first term, and this is why. So when Donald Trump campaigned and got into the office for his first term, he was largely voted for on one simple thing: lock her up. And literally on Inauguration Day, he backtracked and said, we're going to leave her alone. We need to leave her alone. I'm not a fan of doing that. And now that's the second president that I watched as that happened. The first would have been Obama, that I was watching closely, with his Obamacare and all that stuff. What we got as Obamacare was not Obama's Obamacare. What we got was damn it, what's his name now? Obama didn't write what we got. Romney Care. I called it Romney Care because Romney is the one that drafted the quote-unquote Obamacare that we got. Yep. Thank you, Kevin. Yep. Mitt Romney. And so he backtracked on that. He and I'm speaking Obama, he backtracked on everything. Like I said, his first term, I voted for him. First time I ever voted in my life. I voted for him because I liked what he had to say. I believed in what he said. And then he went and backtracked on every single damn thing. So I'm watchful for that. And when you run on lock her up, and then you get elected and do nothing and tell others not to do nothing, and then you start making statements like take the guns first, due process later, I'm not saying that anything other than we need to be watchful and we need to be sober-minded with it, and we need to just face what's really going on. Not what we want to see, not what we hope to see, but what is happening. So when he comes out and saying Trump says he'll probably cut Ukraine aid, I have to take a step back and look at that and go, whoa, wait a minute. What happened to ending the war in 24 hours? What happened to not a maybe, but we're going to cut the aid? What happened to all of that? So let me read the first little bit here. It says U.S. President-elect Donald Trump said he will probably reduce, not cut, reduce American aid to Ukraine once he takes office, in an interview aired hours after he called for an immediate ceasefire between Moscow and Kiev. During an interview broadcast by NBC News on Sunday, Trump was asked whether Ukraine should prepare for less aid from the United States after his inauguration next month. Possibly, yeah, probably, sure, Trump replied. That's what he said. Could he be playing that 4D, 5D, 20D chess? Yeah, he could be. And I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt until otherwise. However, we need to be watchful of this. And if he does continue aid and or arms to Ukraine, we need to hold his feet to the fire about it. That's what we the people, are supposed to do. We are not ever supposed to blindly follow anybody. And that is according to our Constitution. That's not even talking about the good book. According to the Constitution, we aren't supposed to close our eyes. Ever. So I think it's important that we listen to both the good book and the Constitution. You know, we can want to like somebody all we want. I want to like him. I want to see him do everything he says. I like what he says. I am way behind what he says. Let's make sure it happens. And I think we can do that. Oh, yeah, something I don't have in here. Great news. We got great news today for anybody that likes DJI products. Great news today. Let me bring it up. I'm not going to bring it up on screen because I don't have time to get rid of information that I don't want to put out there. But I will read it to you. I got an email today from the Drone Advocacy Alliance, and that's where I was telling people to go fill out a letter to their representatives, and I got a letter from them saying, Michael, we have big news to share. You may already have seen online, which I didn't, this was new to me, but if not, the text of the 2025 NDAA was released by the House Rules Committee on Saturday, and then in bold print it says, we are thrilled to report that the Countering CCP Drones Act language did not make it into the final version of the bill. This would not have been possible without the incredible engagement of Drone Advocacy Alliance advocates like you throughout 2024. On behalf of the DAA Board of Directors, I want to say thank you for your help along the way. Your efforts have been inspiring to say the least. Together, drone users like you took part in hundreds of congressional meetings, sent thousands of customized grassroots messages, made phone calls, sent tweets, authored op-eds, and really ensured that members of Congress and their staff were aware of the drastic consequences a bill like countering CCP would have on the U.S. drone ecosystem. We appreciate all that you do for our cause. And it says, now that the NDAA text is public, we expect the U.S. House and Senate to work quickly to pass this final bill, compromise version this week. From there, we expect the President to quickly sign the bill into law, ending a long struggle to pass the NDAA without the Countering CCP Drones Act. This is great. This is absolutely incredible. Because we were sweating. We were sweating. What would that have done? Okay, well, first off, I want to make something known if it's not known. But DJI does more than just drones. DJI does camera equipment. And DJI, believe it or not, even makes an e-bike motor kit. The Avinox. It's like one of the best on the market. I would do anything to have an Avinox. Oh, they are sweet. They are sweet. DJI is incredible. Their products, I don't simp for many companies. I don't. And when a company does something that they no longer deserve that respect, I will make it known. Let EcoFlow be my example. Right? I used to love EcoFlow like I love DJI. And I'm not a fanboy kind of person. Those are really the only two companies that I really fanboyed about. No longer EcoFlow. DJI still makes incredible products. And it would have messed up all of their products, all of their new products to us. They would have no longer been available. The reason why is because they weren't necessarily going after just the name DJI. What they were doing is they were going to not pass through any new FCC applications because most of their devices have some type of a connection, whether it be Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and anything like that has to receive FCC approval in order to be sold in this country. So what they were going to do was no longer grant those FCC permits or whatever you want to call them. And so DJI wouldn't be able to release new products in the United States. So it wouldn't necessarily have been like an all-out retroactive ban on everything that they've already got out. It would have just been a ban on all the new products. And we do not have a drone manufacturer in the United States that is competitive with DJI. Do we have U.S. drone manufacturers? Yes, we do. Skydio is one. I don't know. I don't think Autel is one. I think there's a couple others, though. But their prices are just absolutely outrageous. And when you match them up, it's not even comparable as far as like options to options, stuff like that. DJI makes a wonderful consumer product to where these other companies, not so much. Not nearly as polished, just not as good. Just not as good. And much more expensive. So that's great news. I didn't want to spend a ton of time on that, but I did anyway. I'm excited about that. That was some really good news. So let's go ahead and continue on with the whole Ukraine deal. I have a sip of coffee because I was yakking. So Ukraine came out with a statement on, not Ukraine, sorry, Trump came out with a statement on Truth Social. Now, and I got to say this too because I believe in the truth and I believe in accuracy. Trump's known to tell some humdingers. And back during his first election, I called him out many a time for putting out false statements when it comes to relations with other countries. You know, he would say that, oh, we're, act like they were best buddies. And yet, the statements coming out of these other countries were not even close to the same. So, I do need to say that because that's just truth. And I'm not going to lie to you because I want people to feel a certain way. I don't want to feel a certain way. I want the truth. However that makes me feel is what it is. I can't, I would rather have the truth than have my ears tickled. Ukraine, this is the headline, Ukraine would like to make a deal with Russia, says Trump. Article says Ukraine would like to make a peace deal with Russia, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has claimed after a meeting with Vladimir Zelensky in Paris in a post on his Truth Social platform on Sunday. Trump called for an immediate ceasefire and negotiations between Moscow and Kiev. Trump's remarks came after reports emerged of regime change in Syria, a key ally of Russia in the Middle East. Jihadists have taken over, and it goes into that nonsense. He said, and I quote, that Russia was not interested in protecting him any longer, meaning Assad. He said Russia lost all interest in Syria because of Ukraine, where close to 600,000 Russian soldiers lay wounded or dead in a war that he should never have started and could go on forever, Trump stated, claiming that Russia is currently in a weakened state because of Ukraine and a bad economy. Now, I got to call that out. Because Russia's economy is not hurting that bad. It's just not. The sanctions and everything that the West has done to try to financially harm Russia has failed. Because they've got BRICS and they've got all these other trading partners that are just ignoring it all. So, in the beginning, yeah, they put a dent in their economy. When all the different, companies and stuff like that was leaving Russia because of what was going on, that certainly put harm on Russia's economy. But then Russia just did the pivot and found places to where they could pick their economy back up. They started mining more gold and diamonds and all the other goodies. And I'm not saying that their economy is A+, but it's not horrible. The other part of this that I have to point out, and Russia's the one calling this out as well, about this claim of 600,000 Russian soldiers lying wounded or dead. Russia's calling them out on that statement. Now, hey, the first casualty of war is truth. Hi, Veronica. So, I can't tell you whether Trump's lying or telling the truth. I can't tell you whether Russia's lying or telling the truth, and I am not going to put my relationship with the Father behind either of them. I just wanted to make that clear. Now, Zelensky, right after this meeting, described it as productive. There was another word he used too, but they both indicated that it was a good meeting. It was a good meeting. So, I look at this next headline and I'm like, Zelensky rejects Trump's call for peace. Now, I honestly have to take a close look at Zelensky here and say, is he switching his position or what's going on here? The article says Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky rejected a call by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump for an immediate truce in peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. Following a meeting between Trump, Zelensky, and French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris on Saturday, the U.S. President-elect issued a lengthy post on his Truth Social platform saying there should be an immediate ceasefire and negotiations should begin to settle the Ukraine conflict. According to Trump, Ukraine would like to make a deal and stop the madness. However, Zelensky made it clear that this is not the case. In a post published on X on Sunday, in which he said the conflict cannot simply end with a piece of paper and a few signatures. A ceasefire without guarantees can be reignited at any moment. To ensure that Ukrainians no longer suffer losses, we must guarantee the reliability of peace and not turn a blind eye to occupation, the Ukrainian leader stated. He stressed that in occupied territories of Ukraine, at least several million people remain, once again ruling out the possibility of Kiev making any territorial concessions to Moscow in exchange for peace. It is precisely such peace through strength that we discuss with all our partners, as well as the steps and guarantees needed for the people and the state attacked by Russia, Zelensky said. Trump has repeatedly claimed that he could end the Ukraine conflict within a day of returning to the White House and has criticized the outgoing U.S. administration for spending too much on arming Kiev. And according to earlier media reports, he may try to enforce a freeze of the conflict along the current battle lines using U.S. aid to Kiev as leverage. So again, I want to reiterate what I said when I said, could Trump be playing 4D, 5D, 20D chess? It's possible. It's possible. Trump likes to do that. There's no doubt about Trump liking to do that, and Trump is effective in doing that. He loves to do the quick fake. He really does. And when I say that, I don't mean that with a bad contention. He likes to do that fake, and it throws people off guard, and he's good at that. He is good at that. So all we can do, like any other time, is sit back, watch what's going on, and I'll reiterate what I've said here all along, that in the end, none of that matters. What matters is how we can respond. That's what matters. You know, there's channels out on YouTube that are talking about, what if what happened in Syria comes here? Well, first off, that ain't gonna happen. That is not gonna happen. The American people won't let that happen. As the Honorable Mr. T would have said, I pity the fool. I do. I pity the fool that decides they're going to come in this country and try to roll over it like they did in Syria. That is not going to end well for them. It is not. And that's not me puffing up my American chest. That's just a fact. The American people aren't wired to let that happen. And there are enough good people, there are enough good armed people that would take to the streets themselves. I know it. For a fact. I know it. Wouldn't let that happen. It wouldn't be like in Syria to where it was completely dependent on the Syrian army. It wouldn't be that way here. It wouldn't be that here. The United States wouldn't just be dependent on the U.S. military. Not when you got Billy Bob and his 12 gauge. Not when you got John Wick pissed off at his dog being shot. You know what I'm saying? That's Americans. That is Americans. And I'll repeat it. I pity the fool. So do I see what happened in Syria happening here? No. That, again, that's channels doing what they can to come up with content, trying to keep that fear level going so they can keep the viewership, so they can keep that money coming in. That's what it is. Wouldn't be putting my worry in that. If you want to worry about what may happen here, not a takeover like happened in Syria, but I would be most concerned about sporadic terrorist events. That is what you need to focus on being concerned with here. And I do believe that at some point that's going to start happening. I really do. Exactly, Kevin, behind every blade of grass. You got it. You hit the nail on the head. It wouldn't work so well here. Now, I do believe that there is enough undocumented illegal immigrants, or whatever name you want to put on them in this country, that they could wreak havoc at first. If they got the jump on us, they could wreak havoc, because it doesn't take a whole lot of people. It really doesn't. You put yourself together, a team of 20 men in every major metropolitan city. And I don't know, you have them hit events like, I don't know, maybe New Year's Eve. And you could cause a whole lot of damage. However, that next day, God help them. God help them. It would not end well. If I was to remind people of the mindset of the American people, I would have to remind you of September 12th. September 12th, 2001. You would have not wanted to screw with the American people that day. And I do believe such an attack like that would put the American people right back. That would bring us back together like nothing else. And I firmly believe that. So, but that's the only thing, that's the biggest thing that I would tell people to concern themselves with. That and, of course, prospect of nukes. But hopefully that stuff gets calmed down, you know? Hopefully right now it's still tense. I'm sure that there are back channels. I'm sure that there is some talking going on between the incoming administration and Russia. I'm sure of it. Hell, you got Tucker Carlson, the man of steel balls himself, going back to Moscow and interviewing Lavrov. That was incredible. Great interview, too, by the way. So I'm hopeful. I am very hopeful for this whole situation, the tension between us and Russia. I am hopeful that that gets taken down a notch. I think that Trump will make good decisions in that direction, and he will de-escalate the situation, as long as he's given a chance to. Other than that, I would just think that it would be, again, terror cells here in the United States that would take advantage of our lifestyle, you know? Because you better bet your ass there's going to be a ton of people out on New Year's Eve. Many different places across the nation, especially Times Square in New York City. And if I was to say be watchful of anything right now, that would be the place and the time that I would be really watchful of. So, other than that, again, the most we can do, you and I, is keep calm, keep collected, and be prepared to respond, whichever way that may be. Whether that means providing yourself with backup power, other means of water filtration, what have you. Be ready to respond. Responding doesn't necessarily mean arming up and taking to the streets. Sometimes it just means surviving. So be prepared to do that. You should always be prepared to do that. Whether it's a terrorist attack, tornado, hurricane, ice storm, or the drunk guy hitting the power pole and knocking your power out. Whatever it may be. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here because, I'm an hour and a half into this. And I am ready to go to bed. So God willing, we'll be here tomorrow. I appreciate y'all coming out tonight. Appreciate you putting up with my stupid humor at the beginning of the show. I am going to keep doing that stupid humor because, I don't know, I kind of think it's funny. And I like stupid funny. And we'll see you tomorrow. So I hope y'all have a good night. Have a good sleep. We'll see you tomorrow. You have a good one, folks. Dostoevsky and Tolstoy. I know Tolstoy. I'll have to look into the other one. Anyway, I am out of here. You all have a good one. Shalom.